Welcome to ISTELive Sneak Peek Edition with Jason Trinh, STEM AI creativity, and the year ahead is what's in store for us. My name is Robert Martellacci, and welcome back to MindShareTV, Canada's learning and technology podcast, where we connect with people, ideas, and innovation shaping the future of learning. I'm honored to have Jason Trinh, who is a former EdTech Teacher of the Year, recognized by Mindshare, and is widely known for his leadership in STEM, global competencies, creativity, technology, equity, and student-centered innovation. Today, we're going to unpack ISTELive26, taking place June 28th to July 1st at Orlando, with opportunities to participate in person and virtually. To learn more, register or visit ISTELive 26 conference site, and I'll pull that up shortly. But with that, I want to welcome Jason back to Mindshare TV. Thank you for joining me this afternoon.
Thanks, Robert. It's so great to be back and chatting with you. I always appreciate the ability to connect with the Mindshare community and talk about things I'm really passionate about and what's next in learning.
Fantastic. And this podcast is brought to you by C21 Canada, featuring the C21 Canada Dell Technologies AI use case projects, of which we've had several from the TDSB. And no doubt we'll be touching on a little bit of AI and how it's impacted your world, Jason. But thanks. It's great to have you back. Always appreciate the opportunity to connect. And let's take a bit of a deep dive and look at your journey around ISTE and what that looks like from the beginning and how others might want to get involved. You are recipient of several ISTE awards. You're now part of the program committee. You're really dialed in, and kudos to you for being one of the international members of the organization, as we are a proud media partner as well.
Yeah. I always joke with my colleagues within the program committee about how I like to bring in the I of ISTE, which stands for international. But my journey with ISTE has been started off where I heard about this conference on a whim, applied to present, and this was in the Chicago conference, and I got accepted. Didn't know what it meant, and going to Chicago and seeing the main stage, which I always think is like when I see the opening main stage, I know ISTE has begun. When you're in this large theater, you see the production, you hear the keynote speakers. And the size and of it all was astounding to hear and see and connect with so many different educators. And from then, I was sort of hooked. And every ISTE that I've attended since then, I've always challenged myself. And I recommend for folks here, especially folks in Canada, the ISTE conference does travel around the States. Next year will be in Boston. And challenge yourself to be able to bring your ideas to this sort of space. What we're doing in Canada is amazing. How we are, creating things, focusing on our students, focusing on inclusion, human rights, with educational technology. What we're doing in Canada is amazing, and folks need to hear about it. And so I've always challenged myself where, my first presentation was in a night talk, which is where you have 5 minutes, the slides are auto-advancing, terrifying. And it's moved to a variety of things, right? It's moved to being organizing playgrounds. I've spoken on the main stage in the lightning talk. I've participated in regular sessions, and so it's really exciting that I've used professional learning as a way to challenge myself, to always push my learning, because I think it's what we do best as educators. We are lifelong learners. And I think ISTE, AACD gives us the opportunities to really challenge ourselves to really embody that lifelong learning.
And it really is a community. Thank you for that. I've been attending ISTE since some 25 plus years. I know I look a lot younger than I am, but it is about people, and it is about community, and a professional learning network is so powerful, isn't it, that evolves over time.
And I think the MindShare community is always brought together, with your event that you host Canadian educators, American educators, which is a great way for us to come together around that shared passion around student learning, but we get to learn about each other and seeing the different types of innovations. So that's actually part of the power of these kind of events, is not necessarily what happens in the conference hall, but when you run into somebody on the street at these networking events, that's where a lot of magic happens, where in those informal conversations, you get to really, fill your cup with, what's happening in the education space.
Absolutely. So, Jason, we're calling this episode the ISTELive sneak peek, but also a chance to reflect on the kind of year it's been in education. It's been a year marked by rapid change, especially with AI and STEM and digital well-being and equity, and growing need to keep learning deeply. Educators are navigating a lot, but they're also showing incredible creativity, resilience, and leadership like yourself. So, talk to me about your year. You have a new director of education. I'm a proud graduate of the Toronto District School Board. I happen to know Camilo. I think very highly of him. What kind of years have it been for educators and students and system leaders from your perspective at the TDSB?
Yeah, like any school year, when you look back, being being an educator in public education is always a never a dull moment, right? It's never a dull moment. We are surprised of what is happening. And I think for me, looking back, it's been really the year about AI. Like, there's been lots of ministry directives around providing professional learning for teachers, because I think folks are recognizing that AI is a game changer. It's changed so many different industries, so it's not a surprise that it's changing education. And so a lot of the work, directed by the ministry, we were providing professional learning around AI to all educators. So that's really been my year about, sharing with educators, the benefits, the considerations, some of the challenges when it comes to AI. But what's been really exciting to see is that, a lot of educators have, seen this as a really great tool to use. It's giving them time back that they can do the only human parts of their job. Giving ability to have those conferences with students, have those conversations, get to know their students better, do that small group instruction. Like, AI has been a key piece where, the work has shifted, yes, but it's given us the ability to have teachers do that human part of the job a little bit more effectively, because they have more time to do that, to be able to connect with every student when they see them in the four walls of their classroom.
Well said. And let's shift to a STEM as a mindset. You've been deeply involved in STEM and global competencies with your work at TDSB. How is STEM learning evolving right now, especially as AI, robotics, coding, design thinking, and interdisciplinary learning becomes more embedded in classrooms? It's interesting to note that I saw an article yesterday that's going into our report that Ontario is going to acquire how many? It was an outrageous number of STEM jobs in the future, like 1 million STEM jobs emerging in the future, perhaps over the next decade.
Yeah. I think STEM it's going to be ever more important in the age of AI. When I view STEM, you talked about design thinking, the engineering design process. What's really powerful about those frameworks is that they are frameworks that focus in on the process of learning. AI sometimes feels like it's so fast that you can produce this, this, and this. But I think what STEM education does for us is that it allows us to slow the learning process down, right? Where AI can be helpful, to be able to help us, come up with ideas, help us do research to make sure that our problem that we're trying to solve is connected to the environment, to the communities, to society. AI can help us analyze data, but by focusing on STEM, it actually allows us to slow down the learning when we feel like everything is going so fast. And what's also powerful about it is that, as students are learning, often with STEM learning, it's hands-on. We're building prototypes, we're testing things, we're collecting data. So it actually, allows us to use technology in a very purposeful way, right? It's not just about consumption. STEM learning really allows us to slow it down so that teachers can provide that timely feedback. We can ensure academic integrity, but for the part of it that students are actually doing hands-on learning. They're learning in different ways where they're building something, it's breaking, they're analyzing it, they're refixing it. And I think that's a good compliment about how technology can be used purposefully. And to the point you mentioned about the jobs is that really it's those skills that are really key. We can't anticipate what the jobs are going to be, but we can focus in on skills to help our students be able to adjust to whatever the career might be. Critical thinking, it's never going to go away.
It's a great segue to my next question in my reference to the book that I'm launching at ISTE, Being Human in the Age of AI and Human-Centered Learning. AI has clearly been one of the biggest education stories of the year. From your vantage point, how do we ensure that AI strengthens learning rather than simply speeding up old models of schooling? And to your point about time, it's never felt like time has passed us by. And I almost sense that the busier you are, the more tech you use, that we lose time, perhaps,
Yeah.
Doing boring stuff like walking your dog along a river with your family on the weekend slows time down.
Yeah. And I think that's really key is that, like, when we start to think about, like processes of things, it's really critical that we need to slow down the learning so that teachers can do their jobs of like capturing assessment data and ensuring academic integrity. And I think that's where, focusing on skills is always going to be a key part. Like part of the global competencies work that we do is focusing on transferable skills, critical thinking, creativity, communication, collaboration.
And the 7 C's of C21. Yeah,
exactly. And when we focus in on skill development, it actually, puts a good, allows us to really focus in on the why of technology. I think, when I always say to educators, when we start focusing on specific tools only and we put the tool first, we're actually asking the wrong questions. It should be about the learning goals, the instructional strategies, the educator moves. And as I want to quote the ministry here, one of my favorite quotes from what I use in a lot of professional learning is that it talks about ICT tools as allowing teachers to extend and enrich their instructional approaches. So the ed tech tools are there to give us superpowers so we can reach every single student. It's not the focus, right? It's just a means to be able to extend and enrich our ability. So I think when we think about human-centered pieces in the age of AI, that it really comes down to looking at transferable skills and creating conditions where we see that happening. Because actually, we think that when you start to focus on that, it actually makes your intentional use of AI better. I'll use critical thinking as an example. Like AI can generate something so quickly, but students need to learn the ability to actually, analyze what they get. Is it real? Is it fake? What's fake about it? Where do I need to go for research? Is it credible? And I think those are life skills. Like so much that I see online, I now wonder, is that AI generated? And we need to be able to have that sort of like same lens and create conditions for students to be able to use those skills in those contexts.
Hey, well said. And there you are. You're in lights. It's part of the presenter roster at ISTE. And so it's just 3 days and change away, according to the clock that's rolling there. So talk to me about, what excites you about ISTELive this year. You'll be connecting with educators, sharing your work, where thousands of education leaders, teachers, researchers, ed tech innovators will gather June 28th to July 1st. Give us a sneak peek on what themes, ideas, practical takeaways you're hoping to perhaps bring to the ISTE community.
Yeah, so yeah, I'll be I'm honored to be a feature speaker on the main stage this year at the ISTELive26, along with a cadre of many amazing folks. And the theme of ISTE this year is about designing the future of learning. And I think that's where, it's important to come to these events and talk to educators because we're all sort of building the plane as we fly it. As things are constantly changing, ed tech is constantly changing. This is where it's really crucial that we are together to talk and discuss, to exchange ideas, because there's no one size fits all, right? When it comes to learning, it really needs to be adaptive. But what's really powerful about ISTE over the past couple of years is that they have had a merger with ASCD. And ASCD, is known more, for looking at instructional assessment principles. And in my mind, it's actually the perfect sort of combination where ISTELive is actually going to be co-located with the ASCD annual conference. So attendees can actually get experiences from both conferences at the same time. And I think that's where, the work that I do in the TDSB really is combined, where we look at tech tools, but we also look at the instruction and assessment of them. So this conference that we're talking about here really is going to hopefully blend those two worlds together. And it goes back to what I said previously about, understanding our why behind why we use certain tools. And I think that's where the two conferences come together. And I think how the sessions that you will see, even the networking you see, there are going to be two different groups of folks coming together and in the same spaces to co-learn. And that's really powerful about this event, is that there are two events really that attendees have access to both.
Right. Awesome. Let's talk about Canadian innovation on the global stage. As a Canadian educator bringing classroom and system level insights to an international audience, what do you think Canada has to contribute to the global conversation around EdTech, AI, STEM, and future-ready learning? I'm told by my American colleagues that we're leading the way in AI as an example. Sometimes we're very humble as Canadians and don't think enough about what our accomplishments, if you will.
Yeah, I think I'm proud to be a Canadian educator. And I think what we bring to the stage really is progressive ideas around innovation. Similar to the stories that you're sharing, is that many of our American counterparts, they haven't provided access to AI to their teachers in the same fulsome way, or even to high school students. It's been sort of ignore that AI exists, which is, I think, it's ignoring the current learning context. It's actually ignoring the real world. So I think Canadians, that we bring innovation. We are okay to try. But I think when we try new things, we're leveraging AI, we're doing it in a way that's grounded in inclusion. I think that's what Canadians bring into the mix, is that, we are daring to try new things, but we're not doing things silly-willy, right? We're doing things that are very methodical, we're thoughtful, we're thinking about accessibility, we're thinking about inclusion, we're thinking about, cultural appropriation. We're thinking about all these different things as we head into it, which I think is a very, very powerful model to any educator in the world, is that, we're leading innovation, but doing it in a very thoughtful way.
Well said. And speaking of Canada, there's our 35th Can-Am VIP invite to the reception. And if you haven't had an opportunity to register and are going, by all means, we have a small crowd of about 150 now. And usually we settle in around that, but we've gotten as high as 200 leaders and teachers from across North America and beyond, because it is very international now. I've been honored to be appointed to the international organization, the Global Alliance of EdTech Alliances.
Yeah, and again, it gives us that opportunity to connect with other educators. There's learning throughout Orlando in the conference halls, but in other spaces as well. So it is such a lovely event, and thank you for hosting and bringing Canadian and American educators together.
Pleasure. Well, before we wrap up, let's get some final advice for educators and leaders as we look ahead to the next school year. What advice do you offer for teachers and principals and district leaders and policymakers who are trying to keep pace with all this change while staying grounded in what matters most? It's not easy, is it?
No, it's not easy. But I think with any kind of shift in education, my mind always goes to the students. Those are the most crucial people in education. So if you're centering students, anything that you do, whatever policy, whatever procedure, whatever ed tech tool, if students are at the center of what you are doing, you're probably in the right path. It would be my advice.
With that, Jason, Trinh, I know you've got a lot to wrap up before you head down to ISTE with the school year. Exciting times. Any highlights from the year? I'm sure there's a number of graduating students. It's always great to be part of the celebrations and success stories along the way.
Yeah, actually today was the day where I connected with the team within the department, and we all had a chance to really look at the impact that we have done over the school year. So in my role, it's still a teacher role, but it's with working at the district level. So I haven't attended a graduation or commencement yet. I do miss those, but in a way, we did our own sort of graduation with the team, looking at doing a year look back. And I think that I want to stress that there is an importance in like central rules. Teacher professional learning should always be a priority and supported. So I'm thankful that within the TDSB we have the mechanisms to do that. But yeah, so I think that's been the highlight, really, just a few hours ago, where we've celebrated the learning of the team.
Amazing, Jason. It's been such a rich and timely conversation. I love how you continue to remind us that STEM, AI, and technology are not really about the tools alone. They're about people, purpose, creativity, equity, and preparing students to thrive in a world that is changing faster than ever. Thank you for sharing your insights with us on MindShare TV and our audience, for continuing to represent Canada educationally from an innovation perspective on the global stage.
Yeah, thank you so much, Robert, for this conversation. It's always a pleasure to chat and connect, and I'm looking to continue our conversation at ISTE.
Awesome. And to our MindShare TV viewers and listeners, be sure to follow Jason's work, connect with us at ISTELive26, and visit C21Canada.org to explore the latest C21 Canada Dell Technologies AI use case projects. Learn more or register at ISTELive, taking place June 28th to July 1st in Orlando. Visit the official ISTELive website. And as always, my name is Robert Martellacci. Until next time, stay healthy, stay safe, and keep the learning curve steep.